as well. I want to talk a little bit about alternatives. They're a bigger part of the investment landscape than I at least initially thought and held for a long time. And that's both on a retail and institutional level. Shana Sissel joins us here. She focuses a lot on alternatives. She's a founder and CEO of Banríon Capital Management. Shana, thanks so much for joining us here. Love to just get your thoughts about kind of where you see some opportunities in the world of alternative investments today. We've seen precious metals have amazing runs here. We've seen crypto with a lot of volatility moving higher. Where are you seeing opportunities?
Well, I don't know if I consider those the kind of alternatives that you should be paying attention to. Those alternatives, crypto, maybe not as much, but precious metals, things of real assets, that has been an asset class that's been around for a really long time. There have been ways people have found to put in their portfolios those allocations. Where the more interesting things are happening are on the evolution and the democratization of strategies that typically were only available to accredited investors and qualified purchasers, individuals who had net worths in excess of $1 million to $5 million. And so they're now being available in different types of structures that make them accessible to everybody. Things like interval funds, ETFs. It started with mutual funds in 2007 when the rules changed for the 1940 Act that made it possible to do hedging and hedge fund-like strategies in a pure liquid form. 2019, 2020, active ETFs became a thing. Then it became available there. Now we've seen this rise of interval funds, which are making illiquid assets available in a structure that is accessible to everybody. So now you can get private credit, private equity, real estate, actual physical real estate debt, venture capital. All of those things are now accessible to the broad pool of investors. And these things were not possible before. So now we have, I almost feel like a flattening of access, where it used to be the haves and have-nots. We don't have that as much. Now it becomes more of what about the quality of the product that's being put out there? Like what's driving the push in these markets? I would argue that there's a lot of good product going out there from smaller shops that are looking to be able to access a broader pool of investors. And then I would say there's also some product that's being put out there that maybe isn't as attractive to the institutional investor. And so it's kind of being pushed down market. And I would argue that's probably not the best product. So there's definitely some issues, but overall, the trend we're seeing is just accessibility to types of strategies that were typically not available to the average investor. The gatekeeping in that respect has gone away.
Are you on the sidelines, maybe not on the sidelines, but are you cheering the democratization of investment in the way that you describe? In other words, is having all of these options available to retail investors a positive thing inherently, or is this something that gives you pause? Again, a kind of regular investor's ability now to invest in the kinds of bespoke or, dare I say, kind of boutique funds you're talking about?
Well, there's a couple of things. I have mixed feelings, right? So my entire company is focused on making alts accessible to mass affluent financial advisors and their clients. So most investors, and I'm certainly supportive of that. The reason I became so passionate about alts was because I got exposed to them during the financial crisis when I was working for a hedge fund, and I thought to myself, wow, there's some really interesting stuff here. I wish my dad could invest in something like this. It might have helped him kind of manage the risk in his portfolio during the financial crisis. So there's value. But the problem is, as I noted, there's not always the best product that's being pushed here. A lot of it is just well-packaged marketing. And I see that more and more, especially with some of the innovations coming out in crypto buffers and crypto hedge products and levered crypto products. Those things concern me. I think my biggest concern is the lack of education, the lack of proper classification, the push for these new and exciting things under the guise of, well, now you can finally access it, but not really having the understanding of some of the complexities of these products. And so there are a lot of places where even the average investor, even though it is accessible to them, there are gates that kind of are hurdles they have to jump in order to actually make the investment. I know most people, if you were to go into your Fidelity or Schwab account today, most people, not all people, but most people, if you have not made your risk tolerance uber aggressive and you try to trade an alternative ETF, you can't. You'll get blocked out of it. So there are some hurdles in that extent. I think the bigger problem is that there's the lack of education, because I actually believe that the broader investment professional universe, that pool, maybe isn't as knowledgeable about these products as they would like to be. And there's some fear associated with that. But rather than addressing it, having intellectual curiosity and having resources of which you can become educated, I think that's the missing link that concerns me, is just things being packaged and marketed really well, but not fully understanding the complexity or even the design elements, especially with interval funds of these products.
Shana, thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciate learning about your part of the business and getting a few minutes of your time. Shana Sissel, she's the founder and CEO of Banríon Capital Management. With our news.